Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 17th, 2025 meeting of the Haddon Heights Planning Board. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Sunshine Laws of the State of New Jersey, Chapter 145 by Mayor and Council, and the Planning Board for official notices. Notice of this meeting was posted on the Borough Bulletin Board and Borough's website for that purposes. For those purposes, I'm sorry. Attendance roll call, Suzanne, please.
Sure. Mr. Dukakis?
Here.
Chairman Hanson?
Here.
Mr. Famular?
Here.
Mr. Madden? Here. Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
And Mr. Christie?
Thank you. Appears we have a quorum. Everybody rise and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a little bit of administrative business this evening before we get to our two cases. First would be the approval of the minutes of our March 2025 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes, and do we have any corrections or comments on them? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Next is I thought we had a resolution. We have that resolution? It's not. I must have the old agenda. I'm sorry. We have a resolution for the case last month. I don't think I have it. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. It's in the agenda package. I'm sorry. This is a resolution for case number 25-3-1P, and it was for front and side yard setback variances at 1501 Oak Ave, Block 104, Lot 23. Timothy Tonchichin was the applicant. Has everybody had a chance to review the resolution? Any questions or comments on the resolution? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the resolution. I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, Suzanne?
Mr. Dukakis?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Mr. Famular?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Mr. Christie?
Motion passes. At this time, we'll open the meeting to public comments not related to a specific case. If you'd like to come up and address the board or professionals regarding anything outside of our published agenda this evening, come forward now. If you want to speak on one of the cases, we'll actually have public comment specific to each one of those cases. You'll have a chance to speak when we hear the individual cases this evening. But if you have any other comments, please come forward. We'll have our solicitor swear you in. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. I just want to go to other business real quick so that I don't forget this at the end of the meeting. You should have gotten an email from Kelly Sanasuso, our clerk, with the information necessary to file your financial disclosure statements, and those are due on April 30th, I believe it is. And if you don't file them, I think you're able to be fined, and or the borough can be fined. So if you haven't done that yet, please see to it before the 30th. And with that, is there any questions or comments about that? Everybody knows what they got to do, right? Okay. We'll move on to new business. First case this evening is case number 25-3-2P, and that's Stephen Varespi, 1101 Sycamore Street, Block 69, Lot 32. Come forward. We'll have our solicitor swear you in, Mr. Varespi.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to be asked to be sworn at the beginning of the meeting for the whole meeting, if I may, by the solicitor.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
You can have a seat. You can relax.
Steve, do you think it would be useful to have you go through the review letter? And
Sure.
I think we can get a lot of the information we're looking for.
Thank you. I refer the board to our March 13, 2025 letter. The application is for a bulk variance and grading approval to install a new in-ground pool spa and it's 6-foot high privacy fence at the applicant's existing dwelling, 101 Sycamore. Refer everyone to our page 2 in terms of our bulk variance and our variance analysis. We note in our review several existing non-conformities that are not going to be exacerbated by this application, but we want to note them in the application so the applicant is vested going forward. The applicant is really here for relief for the 6-foot-high fence. And it's my understanding, even though the pool grading plan shows a 4-foot-high fence, it's a 6-foot-high fence that you're looking to propose on your corner property.
Correct.
Thank you. Did you get a copy of our review letter?
I did, yes,
Perfect.
and I spoke with Karen verbally.
Perfect. That's the one point of testimony.
Steve, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to note that Chris Phillips is here and we'll bring him up to the dais. We all right with him proceeding with this case, or
Yes.
even though he missed
Just
the very beginning? We're on the first case, Chris. Okay.
All right.
Steve's just going through his letter, so you've seen that. So, okay.
So I understand you spoke with Karen Weiss in my office. The original application was 2 feet behind the sidewalk, but that would be in the public right of way. That we can't do that. And then also there's a longstanding recommendation, especially along the traveled way, and especially where driveways are in place, to have it 14.5 feet from the face of the curb. And Karen walked you through that would generally just put you right behind your property line,
Yes,
and you're acceptable to that?
yes, I think it was 5.5 feet from the sidewalk.
That's what appears to scale out to
Yeah.
be.
So instead of 2 feet, we're consenting to 5.5 feet from the
Well,
sidewalk?
we're just going to say 14.5 feet from
From the curb.
from the base of the curb.
Okay.
And that gives clear sight distance, not only for traveling motorists, but also for you backing up and going into your driveway.
Yeah.
So you go back up and not get all the way out on the sidewalk, but still be able to see what's going on. And the only other condition recommendation was a silt fence on the western elite property line. When you have the pool in your pool, the person that did your pool grading plan could add that silt fence.
Yes, I think that was already taken care of.
I don't have the revision, but maybe it's being taken care of. But that's the only other recommendation. With that, in essence, the variance that they're seeking here is on a corner property to have a privacy fence, and in essence, fence in what is being used as the rear yard. And then also, they're requiring a fence because they're putting in a pool. So instead of putting a 4-foot-high fence set back in line with the front of the frontage facing on Lake Street, they're going to go out 14.5 feet, or generally around 2 feet behind the property line on Lake Street. In essence, that's the application and relief requested.
So it's pretty similar to other applications that
It's
we've.
very similar to many other corner properties that we have. It does, the principal structure does front on Sycamore. So without that fencing, the backyard, in essence, is almost cut in half. Maybe you had to comply fully with the ordinance, but I believe that the 14.5 feet off the face of the curb provides the clear visual sight distances that would make that fence location appropriate.
That's what we've asked for in the past, in
Yep,
pretty
and
much
it's an
all of these
ASHTO standard that we've
applications.
been following for many, many years.
And
And in essence, and maybe the solicitor, the reason you need this fence is,
Well, for both my daughter and my dogs, right?
And it's required for a pool, isn't it?
it's required for a pool, but you're fencing off your pool, and also you want some privacy fence for enjoyment of what you consider and what you use as your backyard.
Is the fence going to be like a white vinyl fence?
No, it's going to be a cedar fence.
Wood cedar fence?
Yeah, similar to the other two on the block at 1133 Sycamore.
They call them stockade type fences.
Yeah,
That's what they call them. And you said you're amenable to everything in Steve's letter?
Yes.
All the suggestions or the comments? Okay.
Steve, did you get clarification on the 5-foot fence and the 6-foot?
The plan or the
Inside
picture?
fence on the pool, there's not gonna be 2 fences, right?
Yeah,
Or is
so,
that one?
so one had a grading, on the grading plan, it had a lower fence around the pool, which they typically put at 42 inches, which is required by code. But it's always going to be one fence, 6 foot high, privacy fence, wood cedar fence.
And he's moving it back to what you're comfortable with.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's approximately, I believe you measured it about 5 feet behind the sidewalk.
yes.
14.5.
Yeah, 14.5 from the face of the curb. So with that, I have nothing further unless there's any questions.
And the fence will go all the way around the yard, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
for the pool, including that's
Okay.
the side.
Yes.
It's coming off the back of the garage there and on the back property line, okay.
And there's no issue with Sycamore Street, right, Steve? It's only the
No.
only issue.
So if you refer to the application materials with that dark
Yeah, I have
line,
a survey.
the dark line is what is being represented as proposed fence as amended here this evening with the testimony of the applicant.
Steve, I have a question. Can you explain, I don't know if I misheard you, but my note said without the fence, the yard would be cut in half. Did I hear that
And,
wrong?
if they installed the fence to the front yard setback, the fenced area of the back of what they're using as the backyard would be approximately 50%.
It would be right here. Like the fence would run from, it would have to come to the front of the house because this is the front yard. So it can't be any, it can't be any further out than the front of the house by ordinance. That's what it's here.
It's a 70-foot wide lot.
It would cut it rough. It
30
would,
feet off and it's
Yeah.
20 feet left.
yeah, it would cut 40% off minimum, I would say. Are there any trees? Do you have to take down any trees to make that work? I saw there were some trees and bushes in that side yard.
I don't think with the original setback based on the ordinance, I would have to remove a big maple tree. but
Okay.
With the 5.5 foot, there doesn't appear to be any
Oh, cool.
trees. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't see it. I missed it. Anything else from the board? All right, since there's nothing further from the board, we're going to open this case up for public comment. If anybody wants to come forward and ask questions or make a comment on the application, come forward. We'll have our solicitor swear you in and hear what you have to say. Come right over here, young man, so we can have the microphone pick you up.
Hello. Your name for the record and your address?
Lee Whitaker, my wife Pam Whitaker is here, 1027 Sycamore.
Okay, if you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Whitaker.
Okay. My wife and I moved into town many years ago, but before we did that and purchased our home, we looked at many towns around, and we remember going through all the towns, not all the towns, but many of them in the surrounding area, and thinking, I guess they don't have any zoning in this town, or no one's enforcing it in this town. But that wasn't the case in Haddon Heights. There were no surprises. Everyone has to follow the rules. In fact, we put up a new shed just a couple years ago. It was too close to the property line. And it was all set, and someone came by and said, that's too close to the property line. You're going to have to move it. We didn't try to get a variance. We just moved the shed because, and our neighbor was fine with where it was, but if he ever moved out, then we would be in violation. Okay. We have friends. We are against changing the zoning and having someone come in and I couldn't hear exactly because we're facing that way. Maybe the plans have changed a little bit, but we are against having a variance of a 6-foot high fence close to the pavement. I couldn't hear exactly if that has changed right now.
The applicant did agree to move it back to 14 and a half feet from the face of the curb so that adequate sight distances can be observed for motorists. And it's called a sight triangle. It's governed, as Steve would tell you, by the AASHTO, American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, who set those standards to make sure that these things are safe. And so the applicant did agree to move the fence in roughly 4 more feet. So it would be 14 and a half feet from the face of the curb.
So originally,
Good.
So there's,
originally the application was to have the 6-foot high fence right at the back of the sidewalk. So
Right.
now, from the applicant's testimony, from his measurements, the fence would be 5 feet away from the sidewalk. So it would almost be the same width as the wide grass strip that's there now.
Okay,
And
So you'd have a
Okay.
grass strip from curb to sidewalk and approximately the same distance of a grass strip or a planting strip, whatever they put in there, to the 6-foot high fence.
okay,
and the reason that we see these applications quite often because we don't allow the fences to be further out than your house line in the front of your house because we don't want fences in front yards. And the problem that we run into with these corner properties, Mr. Whitaker, is that our ordinance defines both streets, Lake, whether that's really his side yard in practicality, but our borough ordinance defines that as a front yard. So he's here so that by ordinance, he would have to have that fence all the way in against his house, which, if he's putting a pool in and wants to use his yard, it cuts off about half of his yard. So in a lot of these, I don't know how we're going to vote this evening because every case is different and there's different circumstances. But we've allowed these fences to be closer to the roadway to allow people to utilize their properties better on a corner property. Now, if he didn't have the side street there, he would be able to run the fence out all the way to his property line, basically. But the
exactly.
corner property is a little
I'm
different.
going to ask Ms. Whitaker, have you seen the application materials?
Not recently, but we did originally.
You did. So
Yes.
this is Sycamore. So there's no
Right.
fencing around the primary house. At the back of the house, on the part that's facing lake,
Okay.
the fence would come out from
That's not-
the back of the house,
So that's
go
what I'm
down the
telling you.
lake, and that would be 5 feet behind the sidewalk. It would stop and go around towards the garage. And then in the rear and the side here would be the 6-foot high fence. All this is permitted on the side and the rear. The variance is only to have a 6-foot high fence along Lake Street.
Okay,
But there's no fencing around on the corner of Sycamore and Lake or around the front of the primary structure.
how close would this 6-foot high fence be to the sidewalk? Yes,
About 5 feet.
about
So
5 feet.
5 feet from the back of the sidewalk. So curb to sidewalk, 5 feet approximately, 4 feet sidewalk, and then approximately 5 feet of green before the fence starts,
Okay,
which is different than what was originally proposed.
okay, all right. I'm just concerned about anything affecting our value, our house value, and any of the values in this town, because that's what drove us to Haddon Heights after looking at other towns and saying, all right, this is a place that we would like to live. And we have a friend who lives at 8th and Garden on that side street there. They have a pool, they have a special ed child, and they have a fence, but you don't even notice the fence because it's a black, like a wrought iron kind of a fence, and they had to follow the rules in town. So we are just against changing any rules of the zoning board because of whatever reasons.
I think what you have to understand is, I appreciate your concerns, and we all appreciate your concerns, but he's not changing the rules.
Okay.
He's allowed to be here and ask for that relief, and the people that you're talking about that were on 8th, they actually had to come here and ask for the same thing. They asked for
Right.
the same form of relief. They just chose a different style fence than what your neighbor is choosing.
Right.
And I would even say that the cedar fence is very aesthetically pleasing compared to like what one of my colleagues asked about a white vinyl fence. I don't necessarily like the white vinyl fence. It's not that we're not.
Right.
it's
It
not
stands
something
out.
we look-
Right.
We look at, but again, that everyone has to go through the same process when you're putting in a pool. when
Oh,
you're
I
all-
understand that. I understand. There were a number of neighbors that were here that feel the same way last time, but we didn't get a chance to speak. They're not here tonight, but I'm just telling you how we feel. That's all.
Is there is the fence in particular, or is it you're just against giving out variances to anything, or?
No, anything that's going to stick out and cause neighbors to say that really shouldn't have been allowed, that's all. But I see your point, and I see things have changed from what it was before. But,
Steve, can I ask you a question as a professional planner? You are a professional planner, right?
Yes, I am, sir.
I just want to make sure. Have you ever read anything about reducing housing values for fences in this?
And actually, I would caution the board, you're not allowed to take that in consideration in terms of the land use application. So you really have to, look at the deviations in terms of the negative impacts versus the positive impacts, and as the property is particularly suited. So this is a corner property, so economics cannot fall.
No, I know that.
We cannot bring that into it, and I'm sorry, sir, that's
Oh,
municipal
no.
land use law.
Yeah,
But it's really, what is particular about this property? What's particular about this property is the corner lot and how the house was built and how it's been utilized, in essence, probably for 40 some odd years, that the area between the back of the house and the garage has been the yard area. It has a very small front yard, very small side yards, and the back area is really the only usable yard area for what typically people do with residential, and enjoy them with their outdoor activities, their pets and their kids.
Suzanne, can you let the record reflect that Councilwoman Haddon has arrived?
So I hope that I answered your question.
Yes.
yeah, and that's all I needed to say. I wanted to
Okay.
give my opinion on what was
We
happening.
we appreciate you coming out and being heard this evening. Always like to hear what the neighbors have to say. We always weigh that in consideration when we're making decisions
Right.
here.
And last time, what was it, 2 weeks ago, you would have, but that it didn't
Yeah,
happen.
unfortunately, we had the issue. We couldn't hear him because of the public. I think it was a public notice issue, wasn't it?
Yes.
One of the neighbors said they didn't get or apparently didn't receive the public
Okay.
notice, so we couldn't legally hear them.
Right, I understand. Okay,
Anything further, Mr. Whitaker?
no, I'm fine with that, and things have changed a little bit since last time.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming out.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody else from the public like to speak on the matter? Seeing none, we'll close public portion. Any further questions or comments from any board members?
I have a question. Maybe if I can ask a question of the applicant. The cedar fence, it's going to be a 6-foot high cedar fence. What is going to be the treatment of the top? Is it going to be pickets or is it going to be straight across?
Pickets.
So it's going to be pickets, and how wide are the boards going to be?
I don't have that information off the top of my head.
Okay.
I believe it was in the original application, but
Well, then give me a moment. I'll probably be able to find it.
Is there gonna be space between boards?
at the top, I believe there's space.
But not like where, like, so when you're walking by, it's like a solid cedar wall.
I mean, it's planked. I mean, I guess there's like probably like a half an inch or so in between. So I don't think they're right up against each other. But
There was no information on the fence itself. And the only other thing is,
No.
your understanding that the requirement is that good side of the fence, the part without the structure, especially on a wood fence, has to go to the outside.
correct. Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Have we recommended certain types of fences in this situation in the past?
It starts getting into aesthetics. Yeah, it is, I'm a very large proponent of property rights. People get to, the variance that we're under consideration here is for the height and the location.
Right.
We really usually don't get into recommendation as to the materials of the fence, unless it's an objectionable material like corrugated metal or something like that. But if it's a typical fence material that's commercially available, like cedar with the pickets, and it's a solid fence, we wouldn't really get into any additional recommendations.
And if the applicant had complied completely with the land use laws, we would have no say whatsoever in what the material is, correct?
Correct. So if as the ordinance requires for a 6-foot high fence, it would have to go all the way to the Lake Street frontage. And they could put a 6-foot high fence right from the back corner, the back corner that's adjacent to Lake Street, pretty much almost right to the garage, and have that in without any variances. But again, that would remove,
It would still look the same. It would just be further back.
correct.
They would take out a couple big trees.
I would say that in consideration of the application, the board can consider the particular nature of this property being a corner property with 2 front yards as required by our ordinance. That's all I have.
Anybody else? You want to outline a possible motion
Yeah,
for the
sure.
board's consideration, Elena?
Sure. So the applicant is seeking a variance for the fence location. The application has changed a bit, so it will be 14.5 feet from the face of the curb. They are requesting a bulk C variance, and from some of the positive and negative criteria that we heard tonight, it sounds like the board could potentially consider that it would qualify for a bulk C, C1 variance, and especially, as Steve mentioned, especially because it's on a corner property, that it would be a hardship to the applicant to meet the zoning ordinance.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
I will, first, I am similarly situated with you. I have a corner property. I did come in front of this board many years ago, and I understand what you're going through with this. I do know that and because of that hardship, I will recommend, or I'm making a motion to accept the application with the conditions of Mr. Bach's letter, as well as memorializing any of the pre-existing non-conforming uses that are on the property.
Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, Suzanne.
Mr. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Dukakis,
Yes.
Mr. Famularo,
Yes.
Mr. Madden,
Yes.
Chairman Hansen,
Yes.
Mr. Christie,
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Phillips, sorry.
Yes.
Mr.
We
Phillips.
were going to have Kate, I should have mentioned that, recused
Right.
since she missed the
Right.
majority of the hearing.
Yep.
So it looks like motion passes, your project's approved. I'll give you the same caveat that we give all the approvals, is that next meeting, or next month when we have our meeting, we'll do a resolution that'll memorialize what was the terms of your approval this evening. And then once that's done, assuming we vote on the resolution next month, the notice of that decision will be published in the newspaper. And once that happens, once it's published in the newspaper, there's a 45-day appeal period where somebody could technically appeal your decision. If you go forward with your project before that, your permits and everything, you go forward with your project before the appeal period has expired, you'd be doing so under your own risk, that if it was appealed and overturned, that you would have to remove the improvements. That's it. Good luck with your project.
Cool. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we have one more case this evening, and that's case number 25-3-3P, Terrence Tracy, 423 Bradshaw Avenue, Block 4, Lot 1.09. I believe it's impervious coverage for a expanded driveway apron. Come forward, just like last applicant. We'll have you sworn in, sir.
Okay, you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I think, again, we'll have Mr. Bach go through his review letter with you, and that should give the board most of the information and satisfy a lot of the questions.
Thank you. We refer the board to our March 13, 2025 review. The applicant is proposing bulk variance to increase the width of their driveway for their existing dwelling located at 423 Bradshaw. 2 variances would be required. One is the actual width of the driveway, where a 14-foot wide maximum is permitted within our ordinance, and the applicant is proposing 20 feet. And the second variance would be a lot variance for a maximum lot coverage. 30% is provided in as allowable in our ordinance. Existing is 31%. It would bring it to 32.3%. We do note in our review letter that disturbance is going to be less than 500 square feet, so no grading plan would be required. And also note that apparently, based on the existing grades, that the increase of the impervious area is from 31 to 32.3%. And the way the ground currently slopes, and the applicant can, I will ask the applicant to confirm this, that where they're putting that extension to the driveway will not negatively impact stormwater on the adjacent neighboring properties. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In considering the de minimis amount of increase, and the location of it and the topography, we're not going to ask for any kind of
It's not
stormwater
gonna drain to
attenuation.
The adjacent property, it's going to drain right out to where it's draining to now, and
Okay.
I would have no objection. Plus, we're under the 500 square feet, even of a grading plan.
So Steve, what about the street tree? The street tree that's in the way of the expansion of the driveway.
Well, I believe, is that street tree in the curb strip? That should not be impacted.
It is in the curb strip, yes.
Yeah, so am I correct that you're going to keep are you going to be able to do this without impacting and taking out that tree?
No, I think we will
Oh.
need to take that tree.
Okay.
Ooh.
You got an
Uh-oh.
issue. Street tree.
You're allowed to take out street trees, but you're going to have to get permission from the
Shade Tree Commission.
for the
Yeah.
replacement of the tree.
Didn't the state
Okay.
just adopt something about trees?
No, that doesn't really apply to single-family dwellings or single-family
does.
property.
It
It
does.
does?
Absolutely
Wow.
does.
In
Really?
in the Haddon Heights ordinance, because we already had a shade tree commission.
Oh,
and
so
we
it's
already
different.
Had an existing provision.
Okay.
Any removal of a shade tree in the public right of way, you're going to have to seek approval from the Shade Tree Commission. And they're most likely going to require, and I don't have the calculation offhand, a compensatory planting of trees. It's not the same diameter, but based on the diameter, it may be one much smaller tree or two smaller trees, but that's something you're going to have to get through the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay. Does the health of the
I didn't
tree
know
that's
this was in
there
Heights, to be honest.
affect that at all?
You're allowed to take that. Unfortunately, there's no provision in the Haddon Heights ordinance about having exemptions, meaning a dead or dying tree, you're allowed to take down 1 a year or 5 a year,
No,
like other,
I mean, we're in the process of reviewing the ordinance and probably drafting the ordinance.
and giving some exceptions,
Yeah,
like other ones. But right now, I don't believe we have the exception.
correct.
So-
It doesn't- You need permission regardless of the tree. And so, but did you look into, what about the issue with your question about, it looks like there's been more expansion with patio and driveway from.
That,
the
what,
water.
yeah. So what we did is we kind of we always look at the aerials and we try to calculate based on the aerial. We believe it's 31% plus or minus based on the aerial imagery.
But what about the permanent issue that we were talking about? That I thought was
We did some question about whether some of this stuff was permitted.
Correct. So the survey, I just wanted to point that out. The survey that was submitted doesn't include all the improvements that are visible on aerial imagery, but the 31% is what we calculated ourselves as being the existing impervious. That's why it's plus or minus. So I do not believe that we're still under 2% of new lot coverage and new impervious area. But we noted that just for the record, that it doesn't look exactly what's represented on the survey. So if you wanted, I could generally describe, Mr. Madden, I could generally describe what's different from on the survey. There's a shed in the back corner of the property on the northwest back corner, and there's patio that I believe is in between the pool and the house.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But I did get a permit for both of those separately.
Yeah.
When we built that deck and did the shed.
It's just not represented on the survey. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
that is a dated.
Yeah,
dated
but
survey.
the numbers that we're talking about here in terms of existing additions and proposed, I believe are accurate. Well, I don't believe they are accurate.
Yes, so I think the issue is, yeah, Steve, I would defer to you in terms of, I don't know if this gets tabled unless the applicant go to shade tree to address the issue with the shade tree, but, being that there is a tree.
I would suggest this, that it would be a condition of approval.
I was going to say the
That's what I
same
was
thing.
gonna say.
If the board is inclined to act on this application this evening, and if it's approved, the condition of approval would be evidence of Shade Tree Commission approval. And I'm sure the Shade Tree Commission would write up, they're going to remove X number diameter tree, and they're going to put whatever tree or trees back in generally the location. So when you go to them, I would bring an aerial and I would bring a copy of your survey and talk to them about their recommendations. The other thing I would point out for the applicants, for the applicant's benefit, on the Haddon Heights Borough website, there is recommended shade tree species.
Okay.
So with the understanding, you have to look at the tree replacement ordinance. Most likely you would have to replace, just without a full calculation, probably 2 trees, but there's many different species that are listed, and based on the width of your planting strip, of which ones would be recommended. So it's your home. I would suggest you look at what these trees look like. So you would come in and you would suggest to the Shade Tree Commission, based on your requirements, I'm going to be required to do X, and I would like to plant these type of trees, which are your prescribed tree list trees.
Okay. Just for clarity, if we leave that tree where it is and just expand the driveway and don't change the apron there, is that,
That's correct. You wouldn't have to do that. So
am I okay
if-
to just do that?
Yeah, so if you wanted to not widen any of the paving in the right of way, so you would keep your existing driveway apron,
Mhm.
and then once you get past the sidewalk, you wanted to widen out, then you wouldn't be removing any trees. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then you would not have to go to the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay.
But generally, you would still need the same relief.
Okay.
You would still need the maximum width of the driveway at 20 feet because you're widening out further
Yep.
on the property. And I still think you would probably exceed the maximum 30%, but probably in a lesser fashion instead of being at 32%, you'd probably be just under 32%. But you would still need the same relief
Okay.
from this board. But if you do not touch the tree, you do not have to go to the Shade Tree Commission, and that would not be a condition of approval.
Okay. Ideally, I would. I mean, the tree is dropping limbs like on the cars now. That's part of the problem. So ideally, I would probably just proceed to do that.
And Mr. Madden can attest this as well. Shade Tree Commission is, I believe, a very reasonable board, in my opinion. I mean, that if
We've
you,
gotten more reasonable.
yeah, I believe it.
We used
Possibly
not to be
less.
very reasonable.
Yeah, but I believe if you follow the rules, and that's what I would suggest, look at what that rule book is,
Okay.
then I would do that. And then in the alternative, say for instance, and Madam Solicitor, this is for you to hear, say for instance, you cannot work out with the Shade Tree Commission, I would suggest that we leave it up, the board would leave that for the applicant to come back to the board.
Could you potentially, if we're going to create potentially for both ways? Just to say, return back.
Sure.
Oh, that would be,
Because it would just be eliminating part of the proposal if we approve it both ways, and then you can go to the Shade
yeah.
Tree Commission. You're just taking it, you're doing less than you're approved for at that
So in
point.
the alternative, so
Yeah.
you could, the
Right.
applicant is proceeding with the application for the full width, 20 feet for the entirety of the driveway, all the way to the curb gutter line. In the with the understanding that a condition of that approval would be approval from the Shade Tree Commission for the removal of the tree that would be impacted the shade tree. In the alternative, if the Shade Tree Commission, if the applicant and the Shade Tree Commission cannot agree on an approval, then the applicant would keep the width of the driveway all the way through his property line in the public right of way, the same width it is now.
Shade Tree meeting is April 23rd.
And that way you're either or. That was a great suggestion. Was that yours? Thank you.
It's a great.
That was a great
Thank you.
suggestion. Now we don't have to come back and we don't have to come back.
Steve, can you repeat, so if the shade tree can't agree on the approval, we'll keep the width of the driveway all the way, can you repeat that last part? I
So the
can get that
width,
right?
the width of the driveway would not, the width of the driveway within the public right-of-way would not be changed. So the existing driveway within the public right-of-way would not be changed.
Okay,
And the driveway would be installed up to 20 feet on the applicant's property, 20 foot wide on the applicant's property, but in a manner that would not affect the existing shade tree.
I don't know if that was as good the second time around, but I got it. I think that'll be
I,
fine.
I think the first time was better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
First time's always better.
Your calculation for the impervious was just the 20 feet, not the apron height, correct?
It's only on site. We only calculate the actual lot coverage on the property
The
itself.
property, right, so you include the longer piece of the apron. that you said.
No, that would not be,
That's
that
right
would,
away.
that's not calculated in the lot coverage.
Thank you.
Right, but the application that we're looking at on the survey, the current application includes all new concrete for essentially the apron. So the tree would be removed, the grass would be removed, the concrete basically through the sidewalk all the way up to the whole section, right?
But we cannot count the improvements in a right of way.
Right.
It's only our ordinance only prescribes lot coverage on the property itself.
Okay, I understand, but I'm just making sure I'm looking at this correctly, that the improvement will go through the right of way, too, because it will extend the driveway.
Correct. It would extend the driveway, yes.
Just a question for the applicant. I mean, I guess I don't want to assume anything, but why do you want to widen your driveway?
Can't open the doors on two cars. So we can't park two cars in the driveway.
Is 16 feet is not wide enough?
No.
And it's not long enough to park two cars front and back, right?
Correct. There's a little like garden retaining wall along the side of the garage. You can't open a car door at all there, and that's greater than the length of the first car. So we can get one car in the garage currently, and then there's this fun maneuver you can kind of like make to get another car back. But if it's like off at all, you can't get the other car out of the garage, and then we're left with no room to park. And then the tree in discussion is just like it's like Angry Birds of throwing.
You know what kind of tree it is?
I don't know,
Oh, yeah, sycamore.
but it's
I mean, if it's like
They throw those balls off of them and then
Well, no.
the sticky balls. That looks like an oak, actually. Swamp maple or some maple. I don't think
I'm
that's.
not certain.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a gas tree. That's,
Where's
is that a
I know
technical term?
PSE&G has told me twice they're cutting it down.
I didn't mean to do that.
Tomorrow. They're cutting it
Sensitive.
down, and then it'll come back.
Where's the?
Excuse me?
Are you on the wire
It
side?
looks like it
Are you
would be
on the
here,
wire
right?
side?
Correct. Yeah.
Is it on the survey?
It splits the telephone lines and the hot power line. It like bifurcates.
I have a question for the applicant.
Sure.
This may help with the resolution. So would you say that the way your house is sited on the property, it creates an unusual
Can't tell.
condition?
It's got to be here because.
Yeah, so the angle of the house
It's already
it's like on a 45-degree angle to the corner. So that's kind of why it's like it's a really odd apron that you have to kind of climb. And then the roots of that tree,
Yeah, it's on the
there was
other side,
some
it's on
road work. The road was redone, and the way they kind of like laid the apron is even more
Yeah, it's
awkward now.
going
They
back
kind of like
that hill.
scooted it because it wasn't, I think it was just out of convenience to like repave the road quickly. But now it's just kind of like this very odd angle. And then, so like during the day, all the high school kids park in front of our house and you just can't like make the turn to get in the way that it is. Everyone else on my street has 20 feet wide besides me. And then we have this weird angle that, I don't know if you can imagine, but it's just like very hard to kind of
I
like
can see
angle a
it.
car and maneuver in when
Yeah.
there's two high school kids parked on both ends of the driveway.
It's not perpendicular to the straight line.
It does have like.
Correct.
right,
So you
these
need to get
driveways
like a
right
full
there.
angle to
Right,
back
it's
into it. You can't pull
20.
forward into that offset spot because, well, I can, maybe you can, but it's very awkward to maneuver a car.
That
into
one's wide.
That kind of side spot. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm articulating that well, but.
The two neighbors next to
I'm
each
gonna,
other.
we're getting a little technical here too. So the house is on an angle. You're saying the driveway is gonna be 20 feet. and you're going to have that apron come all the way just straight. Even if you come just straight back, the width is going to be more than 20 feet at the curb because you're going like this, correct?
No, it's
No,
parallel.
it's perpendicular.
Parallel.
This is parallel to this.
It's parallel to this, but
Right.
it,
Yeah, but
No,
you're
it's going to be
talking,
the
you're
same.
talking
But
a
with the-
5-degree
with the-
angle.
with the,
Yeah, you're talking 20.5 feet.
okay. I just want to make sure we're not going to
Oh,
make him
are you
now
saying
have to
to-
come in.
Are you saying
No,
to
no.
the apron, the other corner of the apron? So that's what, again, I'm not articulating this well, but when they just redid the street, they moved that a little bit the other way. So I actually want to bring that back on center. Because my 14 feet now is not direct to my garage. It's actually over. Due to just like,
The tree roots.
well, it was out of ease for the guys that they just redid my road for some pipe water sewer line thing.
New
and-
Jersey American Water.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't a.
So they tore all the curb out and they didn't put it back where it was. So it's not a straight shot into my garage anymore. It's off a little bit. And that's obviously, you may be able to see the picture, but you can't see it again on this old survey because that doesn't really like line up well.
So, but your width of your driveway is not going to exceed, the back of your driveway apron is not going to exceed the width of your proposed driveway width.
No.
So it's
no.
still going to line up. If that was your question.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just concerned that if we're going to say 20 feet and his driveway's 20 feet and it's sideways now, you're looking at
It's on an angle.
an angle, so it's going to
It's
be,
20.5 feet.
Yeah. So it'll be.
but I just want to make sure that's,
21.2.
we don't hamstring him with the,
No, no, no.
No, it's a fair question, but it's not going to be a perpendicular line from the street to the angled house. It's going to be a perpendicular line off of the house to the street.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
The last thing, depending on what you want to do with the tree, I would, if you want to go to the shade tree meeting next week, I would get as much information on that tree. We go in there because they're gonna ask. They're gonna ask a lot. Is the tree healthy? Is it not healthy? What kind of tree is it? Because they'll have those types of concerns.
Okay.
Taking down such a big shade tree. But if the tree is not healthy, like you're suggesting, and you have like an arborist say that, or if you get, we have a town arborist, you go on the website and ask him to check it out, you know, he might be able to give you a favorable opinion that.
Okay.
Take that step.
How often do they meet? I'm unfortunately out of
month.
town the 23rd.
Once a month, but at the same time, like once you could email, there's like a shade tree email, and you can email your concerns about it and kind of put this, what you want to do in there, and then it'll be circulated through the members of the committee. So even though they only meet once a month, they'll be able to look at the tree, have our arborist go out, look at the tree. And,
Thank you.
go from there. So we can get you an answer without having to have it.
Okay,
That's their website, and that's their email.
perfect.
And I go down.
Okay, I can do that. I can't do next week, unfortunately, but.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Even if you don't have to be there next week, we can shoot an email to them.
Oh, you're saying that they could,
We could look at it and talk about it next week without you being there.
Is that a good idea?
It's simple. Shade,
They're reasonable, but they're not.
Well, no, we're
shade
right.
tree at haddonhts.com is their website.
Okay.
Steve, quick question. Do we cover whether a road opening permit would be required?
For the road opening permits, the driveway aprons are always required from the town.
Okay.
Any excavation in the right of way is always required.
Okay, because it just says may be required. So I just wanted to,
Again, we don't administer that. That goes through the construction office. But I would suspect that if they're widening the apron, they're going to have to get a road opening permit.
What was that?
Right.
Yeah.
Any more questions or comments from the board? We'll open it up for a public comment and close it for public comment since there's nobody here. Bring
okay.
it back for a possible motion.
So the motion would cover the fact that the applicant is requesting two variances, one for lot coverage and one for the width of the driveway apron. The applicant's proposing 20 feet instead of 14 feet. We did discuss, I think, quite a few reasons that the applicant would be requesting a bulk C1 variance for hardship, especially because of the positioning of the driveway in light of the fact that the house is at a 45-degree angle. There are, a lot of high school students that park in front of the house. The way that the driveway is positioned, it makes it very difficult to park in the driveway, get two cars in the driveway, potentially remove a car from the garage. The motion would be for those two variances. We're going to have kind of two possibilities for the applicant here. They could proceed with the full width, entirety of the driveway to the curb, and they're going to potentially remove a shade tree, but that condition would require going to the Shade Tree Commission. And then the alternative, if the Shade Tree Commission cannot, if they don't agree with what they need to do with that tree, then the applicant will not remove the tree. They will keep the width of the driveway within the public right-of-way, would not be changed, and the driveway would be up to 20 feet wide, but in a manner that would not impact the tree.
Yes. And then also recognizing the existing nonconformities of the house, just
Yes.
for the record on the resolution.
Yes.
But that, yes, that is good. Everything I understand.
Anybody like to make a motion? It can be what she said.
Yeah, okay, what she said. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for the, to include the increase in impervious coverage and the apron at 20 plus feet based on geometry. With the condition that the shade tree commission would use the removal of the tree. If it is not successful, then the applicant would be approved for a 20-foot driveway outside the right of way of the property. Is that right? And then also to like to include all the non-conforming.
Conditions in Steve's letter,
Yeah.
road opening permit.
Yeah, compliance with Steve's letter.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call. Suzanne, please.
Sure. Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Dukakis?
Yes.
Chairman Hanson?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hearn? Mr. Famularo?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Christie? And Mr. Phillips?
Congratulations. Motion passes. Your project's approved. Good luck. You heard the spiel about the appeal period.
Yes.
The end of the last application. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to have to go through the whole thing again if possible, but that would apply, probably unlikely since nobody was here to object to your case. So good luck. Go get your permits from Suzanne and do what you need to do with the Shade Tree Commission. You're done with us at this point.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
guys
in.
your time.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do we have any other business, Suzanne? Any comments from the board on anything outside of the agenda for this evening?
Other than, I haven't heard anything from Chris Morgan about the sign. So in case the mayor asks, I know nothing.
The mayor's not here, so we can't even ask the mayor.
All right.
And I gotta refresh myself. If we're ever gonna talk about that, please, Suzanne, let me know so I can refresh my memory on notes and all that.
There's been like 3 sign ordinances done since in the last 5 years, but none of them were.
It's probably about the same amount as the 5 years
So,
before.
If you think about it, the sign ordinance is working pretty well.
Yeah, it's great.
No objections.
I'm just saying,
It's not.
because it was a very, I remember the sign ordinance when it came out, which is kind of when the historic district was really established. That was very thought out back in the day. So in terms of most of the signage in town and most of it's working, just keeping that, doesn't mean you have to change the ordinance, just a suggestion. Don't change it just to change it, you know. Suzanne, I understand we're gonna have a very busy month next month, probably 5 plus 1, 5 bulk variance case and 1 use variance case. Use variance. Yeah, use variance is for a, no, I can say generally what it is, but not talk about the aspect of it. But generally, it's a existing non-conforming property that it was formerly residential in nature. Second floor is residential, first floor is professional office, and they're looking to have it 2 residential units. That's generally what it is without indicating location or anything else. So it's going to be a night.
Yeah.
So be prepared. Drink your coffee, drink your energy drink, drink your juice. You know, that one's going to be more so than tonight.
May 15th, I think, actually.
May 15th. Yeah, so it's 6 pieces.
Yeah.
One is 2 parts, and then that's on the property. The 3 streets just for lack of paperwork, somewhere they have additions for non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming, and I think somebody on the east side.
You do. Need both of you.
The use, I mean, she and Mary,
Can't do it.
So I think that's important, and Suzanne, you'll track that to see if we're going to have a full 7 members for that use. Because that's only fair to the applicant to know ahead of time.
That's not your-
The people for the duplex plus use have been trying to do all this.
This isn't your last dance, is it? You got one more?
It would have, but I think I have to say something.
I'm not sorry, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to you, but I'm not sorry to hear
I
that.
think
Darn.
that's why we're being agreeable to the agenda in case it was, I think Suzanne wanted to kind of, everything she's been carrying the torch for now. We wanted to kind of get it all to fruition. That's why it was going to be a busy meeting.
So I understand you're training your replacement.
But I need to, like, I can't just throw her in that image right now.
No, don't bring her to any meetings to meet us yet.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
she comes out, I'm like, no, that's tonight, Monday would be more.
Yeah, May would be a good meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody.
She'll sit there, you'll sit back
Never
there,
came back.
you'll wave every once in a while.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't know about that, but
You all right? I don't remember. So we had somebody leave at lunchtime and never come back for the first day.
At your shop? I heard that at other shops. I've never heard that at your shop.
I didn't even.
I heard that at other shops. I'm not going to name the name. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Let's.
Move to adjourn the meeting?
Second?
Any all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Suzanne, do you take the microphone up? You want to stand too?
In a few weeks, everybody.
Thank you very much, you too.